So today we'll be finishing off of seeing how to, some tips on oral presentations. We're going to watch that YouTube video and talk about it. And you can show me your notes or what you have so far so that maybe I can give you some feedback.
Okay.
Okay. So let's
Asegúrate de llamar la atención. Ve a Wix e-commerce.
Plan and talk. Preparing an oral. Plan and talk.
Okay. So, to give an oral presentation and actually to write an essay as well, you should follow these 3 steps, right? So that's what you were telling me yesterday. So I did some brainstorming. So that's the part where you need to think ahead, mainly about what you want to say. And that's what you were exactly saying yesterday. So I'm thinking what I want to say, what I want to explain, what I want the audience to know. So that's the part of what you're just thinking. So what I'm going to do, you're not thinking of how yet. So just what you want the audience to know, what elements you're going to be discussing in your oral presentation. I would say it's always better to try to narrow it down as much as you can. So I don't know, if like, for example, you're talking or you're discussing abortion. So abortion is such a huge topic. So to give a good oral presentation, it needs to be a little bit more narrow, so not so broad. So maybe you can talk about abortion in Bolivia. So it's always better to focus on just one idea, try to be a bit more specific so that you can really go in depth on the topic. So maybe that's deciding what you're going to talk about, what you're going to discuss, and what the purpose of your presentation is going to be. So you want to convince the audience of, and that's going to be your idea. After you think, and you can take some notes in the process of brainstorming, of course, you need to plan. And that's the part of how. So when you plan, you're going to think, okay, so how am I going to do this? What am I going to say first? What's my introduction going to look like? What can I show in my PowerPoint presentations? Like, am I going to be showing maybe some videos, some pictures? Am I going to ask the audience to do something? So you're thinking about how you're going to show or express everything that you're going to do here. Now here you need to do an outline. So you need to have the specific elements of your presentation written down in an outline. Okay, so in the intro, I'm going to first talk about this study. Then I'm going to, state my position. Then I'm going to show this picture and so on. So that's your plan. You're going to show the order of how everything's going to be. And exactly, what you're going to be saying and in the order that you're going to be saying. And when you plan, you can also create some material, right? So you prepare the material you're going to use. So it's either going to be PowerPoint presentations, your notes that you will have. If you're going to, take something to the presentation, maybe because some people like to take with them, maybe something physical for the audience to feel or to see. So you plan everything that you're going to be needing during the presentation. And then the final step is just go ahead and do it. But we need to be careful, and it takes some planning. It's not just improvised.
I have a question here. So I need to know what kind of audience I'm going to have.
Exactly, yes. You need to take into account the audience as well.
In this case, what kind of presentation?
In this case, think of it just as, an adult audience. So it's going to be for for adults. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's an academic presentation. So think of it like you had some classmates here, some people like you that's trying to learn English in this class. So it's just that type of audience. It's nothing specific.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's true. You know, if you have kids, for example, then you need to have PowerPoint presentations according to that so that they can understand, or you need to speak in a certain way. Or so yeah, it's important to take that into account.
Preparing an oral presentation. Giving an oral presentation or talk as part of your academic course is similar in many ways to preparing an essay. Remember, introduction, body, and conclusion. The following guidelines apply to most types of talk. Follow these steps. Number 1. Review guidelines. Number 2. Writing your talk. Number 3. Producing notes. Number 4. Preparing visual aids. Number 5. Practicing your talk. And number 6. Preparing for questions. The first one, review guidelines. Well,
Okay, so this is the part of brainstorming. So here's what we were saying, right? So you need to think about the purpose of your talk. Maybe you can take some notes. So in this case, the purpose of your talk is to persuade the audience, right? So you need to try to convince me of your idea. If you think that college is important, you need to try to make me think the same way as you, because maybe I don't think that college is important. Maybe I have a different opinion on that, but you need to convince me. So that's the purpose of your talk in this case. Mm-hmm. Then you need to think about the audience. That's the second step, right? In this case, it's just going to be me, but you can just take into account, like you were, as I said, young adults. Now, in this case, it's not going to be that complicated because you're not going to be discussing a topic, a complex topic, right? It's not science. It's not, exactly. It's not something that I don't have any knowledge on. So it's just a casual, familiar topic. Then, if it were, maybe physics or rocket science, then you need to think of the audience and and that gets a little bit more complicated, right? If your audience is people from the scientific world, then it's not going to be a problem. But if your audience is just, normal people without that sort of background, then you need to try to make it understandable for them as well. So usually when you have talks, you don't necessarily go into such detail, even if it's an informative task. When you have an essay, for example, then yes, you can maybe go into the details, show charts and everything. But here, it's usually not that deep. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, you need to decide on the topic, but in this case, you already have it. So if you know it already, you need to decide. Now, in your case, so you know the topic in general, right? The importance of college. Now, you can, if you want, as I was saying, you can narrow it down a bit. So you can talk about just a specific area. Maybe you can talk about the importance of college in, the importance of college in maybe right now, right? So the importance of college in our era. Maybe you're not going to talk about how important it was 100 years ago. Or maybe you can talk about the importance of college back then, if you want. Or maybe the importance of college in a specific region. So maybe the importance of college in South America or in Europe, or maybe the importance of college when being an entrepreneur, okay? So you can think of different ideas to narrow it down. Because the importance of college in general is too long, but if you feel like you can do it, you can also have that as your subtopics, right? So you can say, okay, the first subtopic is gonna be the importance of college here in South America. And then I'm gonna talk about, other developed nations. And then you talk about the importance of college for businesses. Right? So it's up to you. It's according to how you feel you can organize it in 5 to 10 minutes.
So I have to start for the big one and then to the small one.
Yeah, you can do that. Or you can just start with a small one if you want, so up to you. Or you can do a comparison to if you want, okay? So the importance of college in South America versus the importance of college in the States.
I wasn't taking Eastern into account.
Okay, you were just talking about the importance of college in general?
Yeah, I have some research about Bolivia.
Okay, that's cool though. Yeah. So you can do that. You can start by, of course, giving some context about the importance of college in general, and then you can maybe go to Bolivia specifically.
Okay.
And then this is what you already kind of did, which is gather more information, right? You already have your ideas. Maybe you can, in the process of thinking, you're gonna have to leave some things behind, discard some elements, maybe add something else. And then you can gather information that you're gonna use to back it up. So do some research so that you can have a better understanding of the topic as well. Not only things that you're gonna use, but also things that you can, that you maybe need to have a better talk, to have more understanding about what you're saying, especially if it's not something that you already know. So those are the guidelines. Any questions so far, by the way?
No, here no.
So, all right, maybe we can do this for your talk. Okay, so what were your ideas, your initial thoughts?
Okay. Okay, I have one point that is most people hear that college is just a paper.
Okay. All right, that's nice. What else do you have?
I think that at the end, college is like a little key that open doors.
Okay. All right.
It also helps you to create networking.
Okay. Okay. So at the beginning, when you go college, yeah, some people think that college is just a paper. Do you agree or disagree with that? Do you think it's just a paper?
Sometimes.
Okay. So when is it just a paper?
I mean, sometimes it's just a paper because, like the last video that we saw yesterday, you might choose a career, you might have a lot of diplomas of papers. It doesn't mean that you really like it, you enjoy. So sometimes it's just a paper with your name, with your grade, but
Okay.
it doesn't mean anything.
Okay. So it doesn't determine anything, right? It doesn't determine, I don't know, a person's interests or maybe who that person is, right? So, all right, or what they want as well, or their aptitudes maybe, or their skills, it doesn't really, it's not an indicator of that. Okay, in those cases. So if you don't like what you're doing too, right? And when is it not? When is college important? for you?
When you like something and you learn and you want to learn more. And yeah, I think that when you like something, like you love your career, then you start looking for something else. Like you want to study more, master, or
Okay. Okay, so you're saying college is important as long as it's what you want to do and as long as you continue learning?
yes.
Okay. All right, so that's cool. Now, what else? So your position is gonna be a bit unclear, right? You're gonna be like in the middle. So it's important sometimes and sometimes it's not.
Oh, okay. That's my problem. I need to focus in one point, right?
It's better if you do.
Yes. So I think that I'm gonna focus in college is important. Not yes.
You can mention this as a counterclaim, right? You can mention that if you want. So at the end, so you say, okay, college is important because it opens doors, it makes you, it helps you create networks and your social circle. And then at the end, you could say, however, it's important to acknowledge that it doesn't really determine who you are or stuff. And you can have that as a counterclaim, at the end, just something simple. And then you go back to your conclusion and you say, even though, we've seen that, I still believe that college is important. Because as we saw in yesterday's video, does she have a strong position or is she in the middle of something?
Like the technology video or the
Technology advisor.
yes, she has a position.
Right? So it's better when you do, it makes it stronger.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and here you have some ideas for the advantages of college, right?
Mhm.
So it opens door,
It gives you tools.
right? It gives you tools. That's right. Okay. All right. So you can also support this with some statistics, right? Or any other outside source. So did you find anything on college? Maybe the number of people that go to college, the number of successful people that go to college.
Number of people, the person, the employee persons in Bolivia.
Okay. All right. So the number of people that get a job, right? That are employed after graduating.
Yes.
Or
No,
what?
that don't get a job.
Okay. Unemployed people.
Yeah, employee people.
Employed people.
And for young people that are unprofessional.
Okay. All right. The number of unemployed young professionals in Bolivia.
Almost 25% more than the general. That the general 8.4.
8.4 is in the whole world.
Yeah, no, here in Bolivia in general.
Okay. All right. So unemployed young professionals.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good thing. So what's that gonna help you say? What's that gonna prove from your presentation?
I read some comments and some research that people who has not a career or a title are harder to find a job than the ones who had. So
Okay.
this research show this.
But you're saying young professionals, right? So they do have a degree.
No, I think you misunderstood. Young professionals that here in Bolivia are 25% are employee in a range of 18-25. You
I
know?
don't get it. So employed people in general?
No, young people
Okay, young people, but not professionals.
and not professionals.
So 25% in a range of 18?
18 to 25.
Oh, okay, young people, 18 to 25. Okay, in Bolivia. All right. Okay, that's good, but what do you think that proves? It would be interesting to see whether these people are,
Yes.
yeah, so that whether they have a degree or not.
Yes.
That could prove, if you're saying, so when you don't have a degree, then you're unemployed, then you say, so for example, here in Bolivia, most unemployed people is because they don't have a degree. Yeah. Try to figure, maybe try to do some research on that.
Yes, I was looking. And I was looking also about how many people enter to a college per year.
Okay, that's a good number to show. So the number of people that go to college. Okay. So yeah, if you're saying it's important, another thing you could do is maybe tell a story of somebody who went to college and for whom it was really important to do that. So maybe you can look for a successful person that went to college, obviously, and then you can show how that relates to their success, right? So you're saying, all right, let's take this person as an example. He, I don't know, went to college and graduated on this master. And because of that, he was able to do this other thing. And that's why he's successful right now, right? Because he went to college. You can also maybe tell the story of somebody that went to college and for whom it was a great idea or a great decision. Another thing you could do, maybe.
In my head only came that Facebook creator that didn't go to
But he
college.
didn't go to college.
Yeah.
That was the opposite one. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So
But I think there are people who did.
yes.
Okay. Anything else you were thinking of?
No. I mean, an advantage of going to college, I think that go to college makes you think outside the box, and also helps you to competition development for yourself.
So yeah, it makes you more competitive for sure. That's a good argument because in college you're constantly competing.
Make you more confidence.
Okay, that's a great one. Confidence. You can say some people just because they went to college, that's true. They are more confident, and that helps in life. Yeah, for sure. Now you don't have to exactly mention all of them. You can choose 2 or 3 and focus on those. Okay. And in every advantage that you show, you can try to support it with something, with some outside source, right? So if you're saying it helps you create networking, maybe you can talk about, I don't know, some numbers on social life of people, or maybe a story of somebody who went to college and developed this huge social circle. Or if you're saying it gives you tools, then you can say, okay, so for example, it helps you get employed. So people here in Bolivia, and then you get, right? So if you're saying if it helps you think outside the box, you can say maybe a situation in which you would think outside the box. Maybe you could say, so imagine that you are, I don't know, that you are doing this in college. So you need to think outside the box in order to solve this problem. So basically try to back it up, every single claim that you have. Okay. All right, so this is just a brainstorming. We haven't decided the order, we haven't decided the material we're gonna use. We're just writing down everything that comes to our mind. Okay. Now here, we're gonna actually do the plan. So out of the whole thing that we did, there are some things that you need to exclude because it cannot be that broad. As I was saying, you had many arguments. So think about the ones that are the most important, the ones that you really must tell to convince your audience. So try to think of time, I would say. Think of time and see how that limits your oral presentation. So I cannot talk about everything I would want to. I need to leave some things behind and just focus on the most important. I need to prioritize some information, right? So we're gonna delete some things from our out brainstorm. And then we need to create an outline. So in the outline, we're gonna say, okay, in the introduction, I'm gonna, I don't know, quote this person. I'm gonna show this study, and then I'm gonna state my idea. Then in the body paragraphs, I will have two arguments. The first one will be this one, and I'm gonna support it with this evidence. And this is the second one, and supporting it with this other evidence. And finally, in the conclusion, I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna show this PowerPoint presentation. I'm gonna ask the audience this question, and then I'm gonna restate my position once again. So that will be the outline. It's exactly how you're gonna be doing it, how you're gonna be structuring your talk, and what elements are gonna belong to each part of it. So that's the outline. So the introduction, the mid-talk, and the conclusion to your presentation. And finally, you can start making notes. So you can make some notes, some bullet points to help you out in maybe a piece of paper or some flashcards if you want, and you can have that. So basically the most important here is just to create the outline.
Yes.
And then you can focus on your notes. So, okay. So for example, here, this person has some thoughts. Open with an introduction to the title and an overview of what you want to say. Well, although in this case, I think these are not exactly notes for our usual talk. These are for us, right? So what we should do. But in your notes, for example, if you have, I don't know, here, if you want to, I don't know, maybe for the introduction. So in your flashcard or in your notes, you can say, okay, so show first PowerPoint or first slide, maybe, quote Albert Einstein, let's say. And then, I don't know, maybe state your position. So you can maybe in your notes have something for the first slide that you really want to emphasize. So in your flashcard, you can say, okay, so first show them this picture, I don't know, X picture. Then with Albert Einstein, then you can say, okay, so talk about, I don't know, Albert Einstein's education. So after you quote Albert Einstein, you're gonna say, so did you know that Albert Einstein went to this school? So it's like mental notes on what you need to do so that you don't forget, because it's really normal to forget what we're planning to do. And maybe in a state your position, you can say, tell this joke, whatever. So these are kind of like your mental notes to help you have this the way you want. You know, you can even write down what the joke is if you think that you wouldn't remember it, or maybe you can write down the quote if it's not going to be in your PowerPoint slide and you just need to memorize it. You can write it down in case you forget. So you can say, okay, that's the quote. So anything that you want to remember and that you want to do in your presentation, that's obviously not in your slides. So you can have that in your notes. So let's see. Okay, here we have some examples. So for instance, here he says, show slide 1 or show slide 2. Now, introduction. So he has, you know, everything he's gonna say literally. So good morning, everyone. My talk today examines how students learn English. You don't have to do that. You can just say intro, okay, greeting, and then, you know, just introducing the topic. But that's something that you're gonna remember. So I wouldn't necessarily have that. I wouldn't try to have it, you know, in literal words, like a transcript of what you will say, because that's gonna make you distracted. It needs to be a bit more organic, right? It cannot be so prepared.
Yes. It means when you write in a paper all you want to say, you read and you can read fast.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't sound natural.
Yes.
So yeah. Just try to take some notes. So maybe you could say greetings, joke from this, or I don't know. So this one here, for example, right? The first point I want to discuss is how a student learns a language. So here you could just say how students learn. And then you're gonna say that yourself, right? This is supposed to be part of your presentation, not the notes. And then here you can have some words like, okay, country, English speaking countries, so that you can remember what you wanted to say. Okay. So here, I think some ideas. So at the beginning, try to get the attention of the audience with the hook, you know, so you can start with a joke, with a surprising and a fun fact, maybe something like, did you know that 25% of people don't go to college? Maybe a personal anecdote. So you can tell me, you can say something like, all right, let me tell you about this time where I was in college and I was doing this. And then you tell a story. Of course, it needs to be related to what you're saying, right? The way that the technology advisor started with that story, that hypothetical situation. So you can tell an anecdote like that. So, or maybe a joke, a quote, something like that. At the end, you need to have the summary, which is the conclusion, and you need to also look open, so for people to ask you questions. I am going to ask you some questions at the end. So another thing you can do is try to think of what questions I could ask. So think of I don't know, what questions would you ask if you were, I don't know, listening to this talk? So you need to be open for questions from the audience. And it says some people find it useful to write out the whole introduction and conclusion, but it depends on how prepared you feel about the topic. So I don't know, I wouldn't suggest you write down the whole intro and the whole conclusion, because as we were saying, you're gonna probably end up reading. So it's better if you practice, maybe, so you can practice before your talk what you're gonna say. That way you can memorize it, but not exactly either. You can, obviously we're not some sort of, oral masters. So we're not like the technology advisor from yesterday, right? She had a really good she was eloquent, she was careful with her body language, she didn't make pauses, she didn't hesitate, she didn't make mistakes. But right now it's okay, to use filler words or whatever you want. So it's okay if you stop there for a second and think, or if you don't have everything right there. So it's totally fine if you're improvising some parts of the talk.
Okay.
And then you have the visual aids, or you could, well, there are different material that you could use. You could use a PowerPoint presentation. You could do it somewhere else, some sort of presentation, which is the most common type of material that most people use. But some people don't use anything. They just talk. Some people use just images. Some people show something. So maybe they are talking about, I don't know, architecture, maybe or a specific building. They can have like I don't know, something physical there. So it depends. Depends on what your talk is about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that everything that you have in your PowerPoint presentation is clear and large. So it needs to be expanded for the audience. You cannot have too much information. You just need to have some maybe bullet points, some pictures, something like that, but not not paragraphs, right? Paragraphs is something that you need to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Although you can do this the way I'm doing it right now. So I'm, taking some notes on the screen. So you can do that if you want, but try, it depends, on what type of talk it is. If you're trying to explain something, and maybe put in a specific emphasis, you can do something like this, but try not to do a whole mess, because that way it's going to be a little bit more confusing for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why some people like to have animated presentations, right? So that they can click something and some part is highlighted or some part is added to the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So that they don't do.
Yes.
So here are some examples. So learning English, 3 main points: listening, reading, and speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is the first one, the first slide. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about learning English. And I'm going to be looking at it from the perspective of the listening, reading, and speaking. And then when you go to the listening part, you say, okay, so let's start with the listening aspect. So here are some examples of how we can learn English using, or I don't know, how we can improve our listening in English, listening skills. And then you say, so movies, we can watch movies. I don't know, we can listen to podcasts, audiobooks. So as you can see, I'm not writing down everything, right? I'm not saying there are 3 main points that I will be discussing. You just have 3 main points. So just keywords, your subtopics maybe. Here, when you talk about movies, you can explain yourself. You can explain what movies are about in your own words. You don't have to write that down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just bullet points, most important information. And finally, it's really good to practice in front of somebody. So maybe at home you can practice with someone at least once. So just at least once. It's like a, I don't know, like a test that you're doing. You're testing how your presentation is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you with confidence. So it helps you feel prepared and feel like you already know everything you're going to say. So you don't have to think of anything new.
Mm-hmm. And I have a question here. Practice is with S or C?
Practice, I think it can be with both.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there are some words that are like that.
Okay.
But with C is the one that I usually use.
With C. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Maybe, maybe it's because practice, I guess, with C is from American English. And I guess, I'm not sure about this, but I think that S might be with for British English because there are some differences in grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's okay. So, okay, so practice. You can first start by practicing on your own, then ask somebody to listen to you. Measure your time, I would say. So measure the time that you want to have in your intro, in your body, in the conclusion, and make sure that it's appropriate, that it meets the requirements, so that it's from 5 to 10 minutes. So timing is important as well.
Coloring grammar. Yes.
And if you have some questions on grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, you can always go online and try to check.
Record myself is also good. Or
Yeah, especially if you don't have somebody to practice with, or maybe you don't have anybody at home that speaks English that can give you some comments. You can record yourself and analyze your own response. That definitely helps. So yeah, so then you can see, okay, what you want to do better, what mistakes you made. Maybe if you have forgotten things, you take notes. Okay, don't forget this, or things that you constantly forget. So yeah, maybe you're not too good with time, so you can try to cut it down a bit. So yeah. And finally, you can prepare for questions. So you can try to predict what questions the audience could ask. So I don't know, if there's something that wasn't maybe so clear or something that needs more explanation that you didn't explain because of time or because you thought it was too complex for the audience, then maybe the audience can ask you a question on that. Or maybe sometimes personal questions. It depends on the type of talk. So in this case, it's a bit informal. So I could ask you a personal question, so how do you feel about this? Or what do you think of this situation? So maybe if you're telling me, okay, so college makes you think outside the box. So I can ask you a question and be like,
why?
so yeah, maybe why, but you need to explain why on your presentation. So I probably won't ask you. But maybe I can contradict what you're saying. So I could say, and that's very common, right? So I could say, don't you think that maybe college makes you, I don't know, it makes you lose your creativity? And I can give you an example. So I could say, maybe if you are, usually most colleges here in Bolivia, they ask you to just, I don't know, study for tests and prepare based on what the teacher asks, but they don't ask you to do research. So don't you think that maybe limits your creativity, maybe, or how innovative you are? So then you're gonna tell me what you think.
Yes, but it's up to you if you don't want to research. As I told you at the beginning, I can say.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can say that. So that's one way to answer. So usually that's a very common question, and it's the counterclaims, especially if you don't mention them, like if right now, or maybe I can give you the example of Mark Zuckerberg, and I can say, so what do you think of Mark Zuckerberg? He didn't go to college, and look at how successful he is. So try to have maybe something to say there. So you could say, yeah, but that was a different case, or maybe it's just part of the population, but I'm talking about in general terms what people statistically tend to do when not going to college. So usually the counterclaims is something that people tend to ask about. So yeah. And here's some useful language. So it depends again on how formal it's gonna be. If it's not that formal, then it's okay to, have some fun in the presentation. But obviously you start with a greeting. Okay.
Some useful language that you...
So at the beginning introduction, you need to, of course, greet the audience. So you need to have some sort of greeting, maybe good morning, or hello, everyone, or hi, everybody, whatever it is, or hello, class. So whatever it is, depends on how formal again. You need to introduce what your talk is going to be about. So you could say, today I'm going to be discussing the importance of college. Or my talk today goes for the importance of college. Now, this is not always going to be the case. If you want to start differently, you can start right off with your quote, right? So you can say, good morning, everyone. Have you ever heard this quote from this guy? And then you quote this person. Or you can ask a question. So what do you all think about the importance of college? Maybe I can give you my answer and I can say, well, to me, I would say it's not that important. And then you can start with your presentation. So this is more academic, I would say. But in a persuasive talk, you can start differently. You don't necessarily have to say, okay, I'm going to talk about this. This is optional.
Okay.
You can do this to help structure your talk. So after you have your intro, you can have this transition. So you say, so in this presentation, I will be discussing the main advantages of college, as well as some evidence supporting my idea or whatever. But again, it's optional. So to introduce points, you could say, all right, now let's look at this part, or let's go over this idea. Or the first aspect I want you to take into account is this. These are just transitions in here. So in other words, that is to say, what I mean is more transitions. So now I'd like to move on to this other idea or to this other example. And your conclusion, which can have some of these, but doesn't need to.
I have to say, in conclusion, I believe that.
Not necessarily. You can do, the way that the technology advisor did. So you can just say again what you said without having a conclusion. It depends on how formal it is again. But you have the freedom to do it now. Now let's see some last suggestions. So before giving your presentation, you need to feel confident about your English, of course. But I think you already have good speaking skills. So I don't know how confident you feel. How confident do you feel when speaking in English?
Talking to you, I feel very comfortable.
Okay. With other people?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I don't know, it intimidated me.
It's intimidating?
Yes.
So do you speak in English with somebody else?
No.
Okay. So, it's good to practice, but of course, sometimes you don't have somebody to practice with.
Yes.
Another thing, it's good to practice with yourself. So it's good to start thinking in English and talking to yourself in English.
Yes, that's what I do.
That helps big time.
I used to practice English when when I was in high school, I used to go to volunteer. So many people there speak English. We're from Denmark, States, Canada, so they only speak English.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I remember there was this program, I think it was Pintar Bolivia, and I used to volunteer there as well. And there were a lot of foreign people. And even though not everyone had English as their first mother tongue, but all of them spoke English. It was good to practice.
Yes.
And yeah, right now because of technology, there are other platforms that can help you practice as well. Like this, I think there are these websites where you go into, well, it's not FaceTiming, but it's like, I don't know, I don't remember the names, but you can.
Roulette?
I'm sorry.
Child roulette?
Yeah, I don't know. There's one as well. I'm gonna search it.
I think that is when you enter into a page and you can change if you don't like what you see or it's not entertainment, the person who you're talking. So you change, and if you like, you can talk.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where there are many of those. And you can choose, so I feel like practicing my English, I'm gonna choose somebody from this specific region. No. So yeah. Pronunciation, but as I always say, I think you have good pronunciation. It shouldn't be a problem for you. So of course, being prepared for the topic helps with confidence, helps with everything, and practicing. Being prepared for the possible answers to the possible questions, and rehearse or practice.
What's rehearse?
Rehearse means practice. So in Spanish, it would be ensayar.
Okay.
Rehearsal. Okay, my fair. So I don't know if you have any questions about your presentation for Monday.
No. Can you share this document to me, please?
Yes, sure.
I learn more when I write write in a paper, not in computer.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I need my memorize.
How so again? Come again.
My hand memorize.
Ah, okay. Yes, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I usually don't mind, but yeah, I sometimes write too. Okay.
We have an assignment for today.
I wanted to send you an assignment. I actually created a class. There's this page for, but since you're gonna be preparing.
Sorry?
Okay, let's see. Hold on. I think it was this one here. So I wanted to send you a listening assignment. And yeah, maybe we can. So this is the one. You're gonna answer these questions. I think you only have one chance to answer them. And at the end, once you answer them, let's see. Okay, you see how you did and stuff. And at the end, they will ask you for this. So my name and class code. All right, so I'm gonna send you the link. And the only thing that you need to enter in the class code part, I have a specific code for that. So I'll send you the code, right? So that I can get your answers. But right now, let me see.
But can I see my grade too?
Yeah, you can see your grade.
Okay.
So I'm sending you the link right now. And I'll send you the code in a bit. Okay, so this is the code that you need to enter.
Okay. So this is the code and the name. This is my name.
What name?
Uh,
Your name, you can write down anything you want. I mean, you just write down your name.
okay.
So yeah, you type your name. The important thing is the code.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is for now?
Not necessarily. You can do it over the weekend.
Okay.
Okay. So then, any questions before we go?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. So let's do the survey. This time I got it.
Yes.
Okay, Mafe.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you
Monday.
Enjoy your weekend. See you Monday.
Have a nice weekend.